You're listening to the Animal Free Labcast, the podcast that puts humans, not animals, at the heart of medical research. Welcome to the Animal Free Labcast, everyone. Gemma is away on holiday, so we're doing a public affairs takeover today, and I'm delighted to be here with Isobel Martin, our brilliant public affairs director. Hey, Isobel.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So what have we got happening in today's episode, Isobel? Tell us, what does a public affairs takeover involve?
Well, today I'll be bringing our listeners up to date with what's happened in Westminster in the world of animal free science since we last spoke on the podcast.
Brilliant. There has been so much happening, so this is very timely. Before we do that, though, let's talk about the podcast poll results from last time. So the last time's question was, is the UK being left behind following the FDA's announcement that it is going to phase out animal testing in drug development? Yes or no? Guess what? 99% of people said yes, 1% no. 104 people said yes, one person said no. There is always one.
Wow, those are really clear results, aren't they?
Very clear. Always one person says no, though. It's like a thing. It's become a little bit of a challenge, I think, to try and see if we can find a more contentious poll question to see if we can get a more divided result. So we'll see. You've set the poll question this time, Isobel, so we'll talk about that a bit later in the show and see whether we've come up with something a bit more controversial this time.
So what else has grabbed your attention this week, Carla?
Well, there's been some more great news from the US. So if people remember, last month, two US regulators, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, both announced that they're working towards phasing out animal testing. And another one has now joined the charge. It's brilliant what's happening. So this is the National Institutes of Health, and it's announced that it's going to be adopting a new initiative to expand innovative human-specific science. And just today, on the day of recording this, they have also announced that they're going to close their last in-house beagle laboratory on their own campus, which is brilliant. We're waiting to find out a little bit more information about the dogs who are being released and whether they are going to be able to be found homes. But we're really hoping that that's going to be possible for them. So such a big deal because the NIH is the US's primary agency for conducting and supporting medical research. And it said it's going to set up the Office of Research, Innovation, Validation and Application, or AREVA, because everyone loves an acronym. And that's going to coordinate efforts to develop, validate and scale the use of human-specific methods and serve as a hub for interagency coordination and regulatory translation for public health protection. So basically all that means is they're going to be championing and using human-specific research, which is just all the stuff that we're wanting to have happen. So excellent news.
That's really encouraging, isn't it? So inspiring to see all the progress happening around the world. It really does feel like a new era now.
Absolutely. And sending a strong signal to the UK. It's time to get on board.
Absolutely. Couldn't be stronger at the moment.
So what's caught your attention, Isobel? You've been so busy. What's been happening?
Well, one recent one I wanted to mention is on April 24th, World Day for Animals in Laboratories. I took part in a seminar that was organised by the International Centre for Animal Rights and Ethics, iCare. So it was an online seminar and it was really inspiring to hear from colleagues both in the UK here and abroad about all the really exciting work that's being done to encourage progress in moving to animal-free science. And one thing I was particularly excited to find out about that I wasn't aware of before was the Maryland law. So this was brought into the US state of Maryland in May 2023, and it requires labs that use animals to contribute to a fund that's then used to provide grants for scientists developing non-animal methods.
That's interesting.
It really is. So it's a really positive and interesting policy development. And it also links to one of our sort of shorter term asks for the government. So obviously our longer term focus is on Herbie's law. which is really what will make the difference in terms of ensuring that we have this complete move away from animals. But in the short term, we've suggested introducing a fee for applying for a project license to use animals in experiments, and then using the proceeds from that to boost funds for the further development of non-animal methods. And the size of that fee could be based on the expected scale of animal use.
Or the expected scale of investment needed to replace the animal use.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously,
it's kind of the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, and long term, we want much stronger action like Herbie's law. But in the short term, I think that would have a significant impact in terms of bringing down animal use. And it was really interesting to find out about the Maryland law as a measure that also used generating funds for non-animal methods, and those funds coming from the labs that are using animals.
So I think this is a really interesting idea, and I'd love to hear what people at home think about this. So keep listening, because you might find that it's got something to do with the poll question this week.
Absolutely. Yes, stay tuned.
So, Isobel, tell us a little bit about what's been happening in Westminster in terms of Herbie's law over the last few weeks, because there's been a lot happening, hasn't there?
There really has. And one thing that I wanted to mention, which is related, although not directly Herbie's law, is the recent debate on ending experiments in dogs. To give you the background, this was based on a petition that was signed by over 238,000 people, which is incredible.
Amazing.
So it wasn't one of our petitions, but the petitioners did an amazing job to reach that number of signatures at lightning speed. Listeners probably know that there's a process on the government website by which if you set up a petition that gets over 100,000 signatures, it will be considered for debate. And as you can see, this petition really flew through that mark.
Well, and to put that into context, you've got 6 months, I think, to get your 100,000 signatures, and quite a lot don't ever make it.
Absolutely.
And they did that in a weekend, didn't they?
It was about a week or so, a few days. It was absolutely fantastic, lightning speed.
Amazing.
So a real achievement to get that.
And really good to see the strength of support.
It really is. And that was such an encouraging thing about this debate that took place. So it really showed, from my point of view, the progress and how far we've come in terms of cross-party support for moving away from animal testing. So there have frequently been these debates in Parliament on animal testing, and typically there's sort of just a few MPs, but this time there was an absolutely packed room of MPs standing up to make really passionate speeches calling for an end to dog experiments and for a move away from animals and towards human-specific science more widely. So it was really fantastic to see.
You were in the room, weren't you?
Yes, I was. So there's a small little area where you can sit and observe parliamentary debates. And so, there were myself and quite a number of others. We were sitting in this very packed space, but really exciting to actually hear that.
So I was watching online, Isobel, and you could really see the strength of feeling from the MPs, just so passionate about ending the use of dogs, and they were all talking about their own animals, weren't they? All talking about their own dogs and who's got the best looking dog.
Yeah, it was fantastic. There was a lot of discussion about dogs, but it was really nice because it really showed the passion that there is on this issue. And I think when talking about experiments on dogs, it's obviously so relatable because so many people have these animals, they share their homes with them. So the thought of dogs being experimented on is obviously something that the public feel really, really passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, just to say, we care about ending experiments on all animals, as I think many people do, but dogs is a really great kind of way into talking about it.
Exactly. That's such an important point to make. And actually, that's something that we made really clear in our work to brief MPs ahead of the debate. So we and others worked really hard to make sure that MPs had really good information about this topic for their contributions to the debate. And for us, the really key ask was that this moving away from dogs is really important, but it must be a first step. It's really important that the dogs are replaced with cutting edge human specific methods, not other animals, and that following on from that, more ambitious action is taken, such as Herbie's law, that would enable the phase out of animal experiments over the next decade.
One of the things that I was so delighted to see and hear was the amount of times Herbie's Law and Animal Free Research UK was mentioned. That was brilliant.
It really was. So we actually counted this up. And Herbie's Law, as you would, and Herbie's Law was mentioned 8 times by 4 different MPs. And it was also really, really good to hear the all-party parliamentary group on phasing out animal experiments in medical research mentioned quite a bit. I think that was 4 times. So it was actually, the debate was actually chaired by Irene Campbell, who also chairs the APPG, but she's a member of the Petitions Committee. And as it happened, the official spokesperson for the opposition on this was also one of the officers of the APPG. And so there was lots of mention of it. I know you've spoken about it previously on the podcast, but it was great to hear that being highlighted.
And it just is just such a testament to the amazing work that you are doing, Isobel, you and your team, that we're getting this recognition, and not just, obviously it's great for us as an organisation to get that recognition, but more importantly, the animals that we represent and the science that we champion is getting that recognition across Westminster.
It was so positive to hear the science mentioned, as well as the work of other groups as well, because it's a really collective effort. And the campaigners who started the petition, of course. But it was great to hear a couple of MPs mention the visit to the Animal Replacement Centre of Excellence at Queen Mary University of London as well. That was really fantastic. It's always great when MPs visit labs to see the brilliant research taking place, and then they actually speak about it in Parliament. Always feel as though that's just such a powerful way to sort of bring this really cutting edge science into Parliament.
So what did the government say then? Because the debate was really positive, really supportive, really amazing. Yeah, what did they come out and say?
So this is the disappointing part of it, unfortunately. So we were all, I think, very disappointed by the response from the government that they would not be taking any action to move away from experiments on dogs, which, having heard such strong public support via the petition and the MPs referencing as well their constituents who had spoken to them about being so concerned over this issue, and having seen such unanimous cross-party support in the room for moving away from dogs, it was very disappointing to hear that the government won't be taking any action on this. But we will be continuing to make the case. We're absolutely not giving up on this. So we'll be continuing to make the case both on dogs as a first step, but more widely on Herbie's Law too.
So did they explain, Isobel, why? Because I think that's what the question, isn't it, that everybody at home is going to be asking. Like, we've got such strong public support. We've got strong support from backbenchers in Parliament. Why won't they end the use of dogs? Like, it just seems nonsensical in this day and age, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So the arguments were around sort of where we are with the science and whether we're in a scientific position where we can move away from the use of dogs in experiments, which they don't currently feel that we are. But obviously that's very different from the really comprehensive evidence that was actually presented during the debate about the scientific problems with experiments on dogs as well as other animals. Clearly, it's not only an animal protection issue, it's actually a scientific issue as well, because the results are obviously not reliably translatable to people.
So basically, it's the government's position that we still need to use dogs in medical research for humans, otherwise terrible things are going to happen and we won't get new drugs.
Exactly. And there's also reservations, I think, around sort of the international environment and wanting to make sure that the UK isn't out of step with other countries.
Well, I find that ironic, given everything that we've heard about the US taking the lead. And we all know the US are the kind of leading players in this, and they are making rapid progress in this area. It seems an odd excuse.
So I think increasingly the risk is actually not that we're moving ahead on a tangent that other countries aren't. It's more that we're actually being left behind. We're seeing increasing action around the world, obviously a lot from the US over the last few months, but there's also been a lot of action in other countries too. And it's really waiting for the UK to catch up now, or we will be left behind.
Yeah, people from industry have been saying this to me now as well, that we're already behind and that now is the time for action. We could catch up if we go soon. But if we don't make progress soon, we are going to be irreversibly left behind. So frustrating, isn't it? I just wonder when they're going to sit up and actually change things.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so good that we've got so much public support behind this, because obviously that's what makes such a difference, because ultimately it is really important for the government to know what the public and voters think, and for MPs to hear from their constituents, which we know that they do. We hear time and again that animal welfare and animal testing is a topic that's really frequently raised with them.
Yeah, thank you everybody that's reached out to your politician, and if you haven't done that, please do, because it is making such a big difference. I think the other thing that was really nice to see around the debate was all the media coverage, to really kind of like raising this in the kind of public consciousness. We saw LBC, Politics Home had a piece from us as well. It was talked about on the Jeremy Vine show, also on the Today programme. Our colleagues from another charity were featured on there, as well as being on GB News. So it's slowly building momentum, isn't it? We're getting it out there.
It's really important that there was so much media coverage, really positive. And I think obviously our listeners are already really well informed about these issues, but I think there probably does need to be more public conversation and awareness, because for a lot of people, they may not be aware that animal testing, particularly using dogs, is still something that's continuing now. And you really wouldn't expect it to be.
A lot of people, I think that if it is happening, then it's happening for a good reason, because we must use dogs. And obviously that seems to be the government position. But what we know from the scientists that we're speaking to is it really isn't, it really is time for change. Tell us about the APPG then. We've spoken a little bit about this on the podcast, but it's growing as well, isn't it?
It is. It's always growing, which is fantastic. And it really, again, it's just another indicator, I think, of how much strong and cross-party support there is on this issue for moving away from animals, which is obviously the title of the APPG, on phasing out animal experiments in medical research.
So just a reminder that the APPG stands for All Party Parliamentary Group, because we love acronyms. And that's just a collection of MPs from across all the different political parties who've got an interest in a particular issue, in this case, phasing out animal experiments, who come together to debate and to progress an issue.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it really does it shows how much support there is now across the House for this issue, which is fantastic. So it now has 35 members. It's growing all the time. And it really is quite a big commitment, actually, for an MP to join an APPG. There's so many of them, and MPs obviously have so many constraints on their time and so many different issues. For them to actually commit to joining an APPG is a really positive step.
Are there any high-profile MPs now who are members of the APPG? Who will people at home have heard of?
A particularly high-profile person who's just joined, actually, is former Liberal Democrat leader Tim Farron, who listeners may well have heard of. And it's so diverse in terms of its party representation. So another member who has joined is a former Home Office Minister, Lord Sharp, Andrew Sharp, who actually had the issue of animal experiments within his portfolio during his time at the Home Office. So it's actually a really positive step that he has joined the APPG.
Yeah, that's really good. And presumably he can bring a bit of a kind of government kind of insight into how things happen on the ground there and what some of the barriers might be to getting change. So Isobel, tell us what's happening with the early day motion. Tell us what an early day motion is.
So that's another nice little milestone to report back on. So early day motions are motions that MPs can sign. So I always think of them a little bit like a sort of petition for MPs, so they can kind of demonstrate their support. So they don't directly lead to a debate or new legislation or anything like that, but they are really useful as a way of MPs being able to show their support for a particular issue and being able to sort of be really visible about their position on a particular issue. So it just helps to demonstrate that strength of support. And of course, we can then go and speak more with those MPs who sign the motion and let them know more about our work and other ways to get involved.
It's a bit like putting your hand up and saying, yeah, this is something that interests me. I'm on board with that.
Exactly.
So we've got 50 signatures, did you say?
It has. So we have one that relates to the transition away from animal testing towards animal-free science, and it specifically mentions Herbie's law as well as a key measure. That now has 50 signatures on it, which is really positive. And of course, we'll be continuing to grow that. And it's one out of a large toolbox of things that we have going on, but it's a really useful measure, I think.
Absolutely. And one of the things that they can sometimes like to do as well is tell their constituents what they've been doing. And so they, sometimes do little pieces in the media in for their local papers. I've seen a few of those pop up recently. So what kind of other media opportunities are we kind of looking at the moment?
Well, we actually have a really exciting one coming up very soon that will have happened by the time you listen to this podcast. So on the 13th of May, we're going to be having a photo call with a giant Herbie.
Giant Herbie.
A giant Herbie. This is a 5'5" version of Herbie, which is basically a cardboard cutout. MPs can have their photo taken with the giant Herbie. It's in the heart of Westminster in Old Palace Yard. It should be a really lovely photo opportunity. And then obviously they'll have a chance to share those photos on social media and ultimately, really importantly, express their support for Herbie's law.
Brilliant. And what else have we got coming up? Because 27th of May is World Animal Free Research Day. So how are we marking that?
So it's a really, really packed schedule of events. So there's the Herbie's Heroes photo call that we're having with giant Herbie. But we'll also be asking MPs to do some more parliamentary activity around this. So specifically looking at debates around this, written questions and so on. And also sharing on social media so that they can do as much as possible just to amplify World Animal Free Research Day, which is obviously just a really nice positive marker for the important work that needs to be done in moving towards these human-specific methods.
Absolutely. And we have got some kind of secret squirrel stuff happening as well behind the scenes that we're going to be releasing on and around the 27th of May. And so that very nicely segues into the next episode, which will be a very special one. I can't say very much about it, but stay tuned. We'll be sharing more. Well, Isobel, thank you so much for joining me for a public affairs takeover. Before I let you go, we've got the poll question to do. So you've come up with the poll question. And as I said, we're always trying to find one that's a little bit more controversial, a little bit more edgy, so that we get a bit more of a split vote. We'll see. Do you want to, please, can you tell us what this week's poll question is?
Yes, of course. So the poll question is, do you think organisations using animals in research should be required to pay into a fund to develop non-animal methods, yes or no? So you can vote on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, and Carla's Substack, the Animal Free Lab Stack, and we'll discuss the results in the next episode. And if you'd like to tell us your thoughts about the poll or anything about the episode, then please leave us a message on 0208 054 9695.
So that poll question again is, do you think organisations using animals in research should be required to pay into a fund to develop non-animal methods? Yes or no? Well, Isobel, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been brilliant to hear all about everything that's happening in Westminster. It's so positive. And you guys, you and your team are working so hard. Thank you. Is there any kind of parting message you'd like to leave our listeners?
Oh, thank you for having me. I think for the listeners, it's just thank you so much to those of you, as ever, who have been raising this issue with your MPs. It's such important work. And I think the incredible show of support for animal-free science that we saw at the debate recently really does show the brilliant work that you've been doing contacting your MPs. So keep up the great work.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, everybody. So please stay part of the conversation by reading my brand new companion blog on Substack. Just search for Animal Free Labstack to read and subscribe. We'll be back in a few weeks with a really special Secret Squirrel episode for World Animal Free Research Day. Until then, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. See you soon.
You've been listening to the Animal Free Labcast, the podcast that puts humans, not animals, at the heart of medical research. If you want to find out about more ways to move to a world of animal-free research, then head to our website, animalfreeresearchuk.org. And if you'd like to send us an audio message about the poll or anything else you've heard in the podcast, then leave us a voicemail on 0208 054 9695. That's 0208 054 9695. Thank you for listening.